opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio and MBRadio Network. Sunday night, we got to get the show started, but I got to pray over the show first. You know how it goes. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. All right. Well, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and MBR Radio Network. Got a full show for you tonight. Once again, I don't even know what to call this because I've been here for 3 years. I've been on the air for 14 years. I don't even know what season it is anymore. So we just gonna kick it off for June. Got a full deck tonight. I have a military veteran that's gonna be on the show tonight. I got Alan Emanuel who's back. I got Michelle Jackson who's back, my therapist. We're gonna have we're gonna go beyond mental toughness. We're gonna go to some mental health talk tonight. So I got backup now. So I've been waiting for this talk here. Let's see. Let's do some introductions before we play the comic go. Jennifer, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for hanging out tonight.
You're welcome.
Do me a favor. Do a little bit of introduction, but don't give it all away. How's that?
Okay. I'm presently academic librarian in New York State, and I was in the Coast Guard for 7.5 years, and I was a mechanic and did search and rescue and law enforcement. And I've done a lot of different things in between. So
yeah, we'll get into some of that tonight. Yeah. Again, thank you for hanging out with me for the Trench Talk segment. And who else we got here? Coming to the stage. What's happening?
Well, hello.
How you be, man? How you be?
You know, I'm alive. I'm excited to be alive. I'm happy to be here, and I really just am appreciative of an opportunity to be able to share with the people again.
Yeah.
Alan Emanuel here, the happiness coach, and that's what we bring is happiness. And I want to share with people that if they want to reach out, they can always do that. So. Yeah.
Cool deal, man. I appreciate you. Again, he's going to be a regular, ladies and gentlemen. It might not be every Sunday night because he's on the East Coast, but
I am on the East Coast.
When available. And when he's not available, guess who's going to be here? Michelle Jackson.
Hello, everybody. What's up?
How you be?
I'm good. I guess I should give a quick intro.
Please do. You're not new here.
No, but okay. So, I'm a professor. I teach mental health. I've been working mental health for forever. So I'm just gonna leave it at that for right now.
All right, cool.
I'm gonna leave that last cap off for a second.
Thank you. So tonight, again, we're gonna have some conversations. We're gonna start off with the Trench Talk segment and have a discussion with Jennifer. Then we'll come back and have some happiness conversations. And then we're going to come back and have some other hat conversation with Michelle. All right. So this is the public service announcement here. I wanted to show y'all this is legit. This is my Common Go device. So if you are a veteran and you don't want to use medication, like most of us don't really want to be on drugs, you can just try this device. This is our sponsor. Common Go, right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also at MBRadio.us. We're on all the platforms. We're on TikTok right now, y'all. We on Twitch. We all over the place right now. So catch us in a second right here on the Farron Dozier Show.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe. to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, also streaming from the KCAAradio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down in the 20-second timeout sports segment. All for you right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, also streaming from the KCAAradio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, also streaming from the KCAAradio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more on the Farron Dozier Show. All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, thank you for listening tonight. We're going to get right into this first segment called the Trench Talk segment. I have my military guest tonight, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Again, thank you for hanging out. Shouts out to Angelica for introducing us. She has been a teammate in this conversation around my military talks. She's been a guest, I think, when I first started my Trench Talk show, somewhere like 2013 or 14 or somewhere. She's been a guest. So let's get right into your conversation. What was going on before you chose to join the Coast Guard? What was going on in life?
I had got a associate's degree. I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I got an associate's degree. And I thought my father was going to lose his job. It was when they were downsizing factories and things like that. So I thought it would be a burden on my family, which I actually wasn't, because I funded my education through student loans and awards, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't really know much about education.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought I would get into the military and get the GI Bill to finish my school. Yeah. And I found that the Coast Guard had a marine science technician. So I thought that would be a good rating or MOS to go into. And also I could get the money to pay for my further education. So
it's funny, not funny, but it's funny because I advocate with sickle cell community, and I posted a question on Facebook the other day in one of the sickle cell groups to ask people, have you ever felt like you were a burden on your family? And so I wanted to ask you, when you say that you felt like you were a burden, what were you thinking? What did that feel like for you to think that you was a burden?
It just felt like I wasn't doing my part. That I don't know. I've always valued, my family valued education, so I valued it as well. And and also a lot of my family members served in the military, so it wasn't that far to jump to do that. It was talked about, and so I don't know. Service was something, but also just wanting to be independent and not cause them to have stress. So
we're going to talk to the therapist about that, because I know that is a real thought for human beings as to being a burden on our family. So I can only imagine if it comes across like that, if you have a illness, but you're talking about just trying to get an education and feeling like a burden. So I want to say that could weigh us down in life, thinking that. And so I appreciate you for saying that. So so why the Coast Guard of all the branches?
Because I really I wanted to, I'm a really good swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer in high school, and I did not want to kill anybody. So I thought search and rescue would be my jam, and it was. And so I had some training as rescue swimmer, lifeguard training anyway. So it was kind of a natural fit, and I love the water. So
so I have a sports show here as well. So you said you were swimming. Give me this whole swimming conversation. How did that start?
We just were, I don't know, there's a lot of rivers and lakes up here in the middle of nowhere, and I grew up in the Adirondack Mountains, so we just swam all the time, and I just loved the water so much. So I was a distance swimmer. I swam 500-yard race, 200-yard, and the individual medley relay with the butterfly and everything.
Wow.
So yeah.
So marine biologist, I mean, you really love that, something about that water, huh?
Yeah. I don't know.
You said it was the lakes around there, or something going on.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
What do you want to say about mom and dad? What do you want to say about mom and dad?
They were very industrious people, and community oriented, and also I think they believed in the values of our country, the Constitution, and just I don't know, the American spirit that I think sometimes we might have lost, is doing what's right, and serving others and things like that. So and they love the outdoors, so we spent a lot of time outside, and we had big gardens that we grew a lot of vegetables and things like that. So I grew up on a 150-acre, an old farm.
Wow. So do you mind sharing where your parents are? Were they from the United States, or did your great grandparents come from somewhere else to settle?
My mom's side is Canadian, Okay. So, and they came from Scotland and Ireland, and my dad's side is like French and English, and they were from like the Vermont area. So
cool.
Yeah.
So I would imagine the mental toughness as a swimmer, but who would you credit that mental toughness developing from? Your parents, your environment, swimming?
Probably my environment, my family. My dad, he had some things that he did that were like more toward his son. Like he's like said he wanted a son and he didn't really want a daughter. I'm the firstborn.
Okay.
So it's probably not something you should tell your daughter, but he never really made any distinction between chores. Like my brother washed the dishes, did laundry and stuff like that. And then we were outside, we mixed cement, we built things, we framed a house, like we built our own house. Like when they moved after we were in, I was in college and my brother was in high school. Wow. And brother and sister were in high school. So we were just, we just did a lot of stuff ourselves, like that. So, and then hunting and fishing and being outside in cold weather, and just having to deal with it.
Did you have a vision for the swimming, or was that just something that you made it, the identity that you picked up in high school or in school?
I think I just really enjoyed it. And I liked, our team was a good team. I've always liked being on a team. That's part of what appealed to the military, was great for that too. Yeah. Just being part of something and doing that. I also played basketball as well. So
did you have a chase and hoop dream too, or no?
I wasn't very good. I am nearsighted, and we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have like goggles, and I wouldn't wear my glasses because I was afraid they'd get broken.
Yeah.
And so I was really good on defense, but really bad at shooting. So so
that's cool. That's cool. Thank you.
My sister was really good though. So
cool. All right. So you choose the Coast Guard. What was that process like?
So I think I realized I needed to get my bachelor's degree, and just kind of looked at the different services. My dad had been in the Army, so I knew a lot about the Army. Okay. And my uncle was in the Air Force, and I had some friends that were in the Navy. So just kind of knowing like some of the different things and looking at it, and then choosing the Coast Guard because it seemed to align with like what I wanted to do. And then once I did it, I was like, cool. And my brother went in the Air Force around the same time.
Oh, no kidding.
We were actually stationed like about 2 hours. He was in Dover, Delaware. And I was in Chickadee, Virginia at the same time for about a year. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, So it was interesting to be,
I would imagine not such much of a culture shock, being the athlete, but being now in this location with all these women from all over the world, all over the country. What was that?
It wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of women. There was only, I think there was 4 people in my company when I started. And then through like attrition, like sprained ankles and different things, I ended up being the only woman in my company of about 40 people, for about 4 weeks. And then we got some people that had healed and got back in. And so that was cool. It was interesting to see how people were treated, how different women were treated by how they presented themselves. It wasn't hard because I had already done a lot of, I don't know, my dad would yell at us, right? So I was used to that, like it wasn't like, it's like, okay, and I have trouble with my right and my left. So when we're like marching, like the guy he's like, Jeffrey, like, do you know your right from your left? And I'm like, no, sir, I don't. Like it's beyond me. Yeah. So and I had a really cool company commander who, there was a lot of the company commanders, he used to have the women come up into the men's birthing area to pass out the mail and stuff like that. And we did a lot together. And the other company commanders said, oh, that's going to cause trouble. And he's like, well, they have to serve together when they get out of the boot camp. So I want them to know each other and understand that they're all part of the same thing. And I just thought he was a really cool guy. And he was funny. So he was sarcastic.
We got some MBR family here that wants to say hello to you.
Hi.
There's another one from Twitch. And another one from MBR on YouTube. So we're all over the place streaming tonight. Cool. We're trained, right, as military personnel to objectify, kill the enemy, defend this country. How did that brain switch over for you from the athlete woman to now this Coast Guard? Like, did you have a mindset switch in that training?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there was a lot of talk in my family, like, I think because of hunting and different things like that. But this was more like that law enforcement training where you have to decide, like, I really did a lot of thinking about like my stature and like if there was somebody much larger than me, what would I do if they were a threat, like when we were boarding somebody or something like that. So yeah, definitely thinking in that sense of like, it's different than a civilian mindset, I think, and also when you are handling people, you learn to stay very calm and like de-escalate, because somebody calls in and they're in a panic about like their boat is sinking or it's on fire or something. You have to be like, okay. And you have to make sure you get the details as fast as you can and as accurately as you can so we can find them.
Right.
And you have to just keep yourself like at this low key, like even if inside you're not.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I didn't really realize that until like how much that was kind of makes your blood rush or whatever it was. Is I was on my day off in the search and rescue. We had alarms that went off, kind of like the fire department.
Yeah.
And the alarm went off and I realized my heart was beating really fast. But if I was on a case and I was on duty, I never noticed it. Like, 'cause you're just in the moment,
Right.
So
that adrenaline rush.
Yep. And then like with my mom never really got this either. It was funny. In hurricanes, you run toward that disaster. You don't leave. Everybody else is leaving. And my mom was like, well, you're going to leave, right? And I'm like, no, we don't leave. Like
no, we don't leave.
We're the ones that go out and check on everybody and get people off of places and stuff like that. And she's like, well, what do you, she was not happy about that. So
what do you want to say about your 7-year military career? Anything you want to point out, you want to share?
I think, I loved like all these beautiful places that I got to be, and we would do area familiarization and we'd ride around and we have to know the landmarks and everything, and just being able to see those places, all the people I got to meet, and just the confidence it gave me to really understand. And also just, I still use it to this day, the leadership skills of how to work with people and understand people, but also be firm with them and like say, we have this mission and this is what we're going to do. And, so I value all of that.
That firmness that you bring up, for those civilians. Was that transition was that transition out of the service for you? How was that?
It's a little difficult. Like I got out of the service in 98, so 9/11 hadn't happened, so nobody really gave a crap about veterans or anything. And so I actually worked at a seminary for three years, Union Theological Seminary in Richmond. It was a really great experience as well. And so my boss she's from Mobile, and she's just like, she's like, you're really hard-headed, aren't you? And I'm like, what? She goes like, I said, she goes, you just do things the hard way. And I said, well, there's, the easy way, the hard way, and the Yankee way, like, and so we joke around. And then she was also said that I didn't I was too brief, because in the military, you make every report is brief. Everything is brief. You're briefing somebody. And so my writing was not like that. And then I was very abrupt with how I talk to people. I needed them to chop and get things done.
Exactly.
That was not how, like, in higher education, that you handle people.
Right. Softer in that environment.
Yeah. So she kind of like guided me through that and stuff. So, but yeah, and just really not having a lot of money. I was a single mom, and she like would tell me about clothes and things like that. Because I didn't really care about that. I had my uniform, and and I was stationed in warm places, so I mostly would just wear shirts and t-shirt when I was I didn't have to wear dress clothes.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
and so today, what's going on with Jennifer today? What are you up to today?
Well, I just was promoted to be the associate director of my library, which is a small college library, in the January. So that's been quite a transition. Yeah. Using some of those leadership skills. And and just doing this other work with the Moral Injury Project, which is Syracuse University and Lemoyne College here in New York. We've been doing this for 10 years. This will be our 10th year. So we're going to do like a paper retrospective of the work we've done. And we screen, sometimes we screen films, sometimes we do panel discussions, sometimes we do healing retreats. We've done all kinds of things. And it's just cool. It's like the conversations that come up from our kind of holding space for that are really cool.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So we screened a film called What I Want You to Know, which is a documentary about with 13 people from the Afghan and Iraq wars, just telling their story about war, and it's shot with like images from war and stuff. So it's very impactful, and hopefully they'll get wider distribution. They just released it in 2023.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's those kind of things that we've done. But we're just, it's a steering committee of 4 women, and I'm the only veteran on the steering committee. And so, I've stayed on. I had so much stuff on my plate 10 years ago when this came up.
Yeah.
And I just like really didn't want to, but they needed a veteran. So it was just like, okay, all right, fine. But so it's that kind of service and kind of sticking it out, even when like sometimes you feel like you're not really contributing because you have so many other things going on.
Right. You got to be present to that so you can acknowledge that sometimes.
But I think I stay on because I know that they do need my perspective, because I am the person that is a veteran. So
for sure.
So even though they are great. So
well, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to play the public service announcement, and then we're going to come back and bring up the therapists and the coaches and everybody so we can have some further discussions with them. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also stream from the KCAA Radio.com website. So if you're in the Inland Empire and you listen to us on the radio and you got to get out of your vehicle, grab your smartphone, your laptop, type in KCARadio.com, click listen live or watch live, or go get the app. MBR Radio has an app, and also KCA Radio has an app. So guess what? You can listen to us from wherever you go now on the planet, right from your device. So the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio, MBR. Shout us out, what's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org. Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio and MBR. Let's bring to the stage. What's up, yo?
What's going on?
How you be, man? How you be?
You know what? I'm happy to be here and doing well tonight at about 11:32 p.m. here on the East Coast.
East Coast. When the East is in the house, oh my God, danger.
Yes, Atlanta.
So, you heard some of the conversation with Jennifer before I bring her up on the deck. What do you
I think it was just fascinating. Her work is fascinating,
right?
Being a veteran is a fascinating thing, in my opinion. And getting to live life on that side of life, it's a part of life that I think a lot of people don't experience. So just hearing those conversations, one of the interesting things that she said was when she said, this kind of like idea where she had to always be paddling, from underneath, and then on top, showing that calmness. I think that is something that a lot of people can emotionally connect with, because we all have that part of our lives where we're expected to perform, but at the same time, not show it. And that, I think, is a conversation to be had, because sometimes because of that reality that we have to kind of create dual realities, one or the other gets kind of stomped over, if that makes sense. So it's that conversation underneath of how much stress am I putting? Of course, self-care is really important, right? But also like, how is that being interpreted in when you're off of your job, or you're no longer required to do that? Do you take the time to process through what that really means to you? Because I do think that there are a lot of people, and I know for a fact there are people who show up, and I'm not saying this is Jen's situation, but there are people who show up with anxiety issues, and a lot of times it stems from that start. Energetically, emotionally, you are living two opposite kind of dualistic experiences, and you're either attaining to one, or your identity stuck in one, while the other one is never addressed. And anything that so what came up for me was there's always a possibility in human beings of silent trauma.
Yes, we suffer in silence a lot.
We do a lot of internal stuff, when in fact the more we realize that we're all the same, that we all experience trauma, that we all experience difficulties, and that when we do share those most vulnerable places, that we connect with people in a real way. That's big. Like we were talking about, I had a thing I did on Instagram Live where I was talking about that. Like, what do you do? What do you do when you're trying to create happiness in your life? Are you just pretending like you want to be happy, or are you able to first come centered with like what's happening right now?
Right now,
because if you're not processing what's happening to you in the moment, what you end up doing, you either live in the past or in the future, which we've talked about before, but you also are suppressing what's possible at the moment, and that doesn't get processed. And anything that's not processed, you end up with a problem.
Well, that's one of the things as veterans we talk about, is that they teach us how to turn that on, but not to turn it off, right? And then you spend your whenever that career ends, you spend life trying to figure out that, I call it the up tempo, because my brain is so high, you know, thinking and doing 7 things at one time, and you're responsible for all this stuff, and then you get home and you're like, okay, so now what?
What just happened? I remember I used to work in the emergency room as an assessor for all of the hospitals, the Piedmont system in Atlanta. And I remember the same feeling, which was I always had to be on, because when there was an emergency, I was the first person they came to. The doctors came to me, the nurses came to me, everybody was coming to ask me, what do we do in this situation for this person? So I always had to be on. And I remember just getting up in the morning, because I worked in the emergency room. I remember hearing the sirens, and that turned on anxiety for me. Because
like
what happened
she mentioned that.
It was literally that conversation of, you're not processing through all of the trauma that you're getting. And so even therapists need therapists.
Let me bring up Michelle, because she actually worked with veterans. Michelle, what do you want to, you did a lot of work with veterans in the past. So as what Jennifer was explaining, what Alan was talking about, you have anything you want to share on that?
You know, when I worked with the veterans, they were both veterans and currently, you know, enlisted, currently serving. So I worked with a lot of them actually on the mental health units. And what I saw was depression. And this was before anxiety became anxiety, right? So they were like, we're not able to process. I don't understand what's going on with me. I just feel really, I don't know. Right. That was because they didn't have a label for it at that time, or a title for it at that time. So everybody got pushed into the depression category because they didn't know how to discuss or talk about or identify what they were feeling. Then 7 years ago, anxiety pops up. Right. So during the time that I was there, because they didn't have that label or that title of anxiety, we focused on how to treat their depression and how to help them focus on their current situations. You know, we were helping them process, you're in boot camp right now, and no, you can't get out. Right? You're not allowed to get out. I don't care if you just shot yourself in the foot, you ain't getting out. You still got to heal this foot, and then you're going back out. And that's what we were dealing with back then. So, you know, I look at these different, I don't like the word titles, but that's kind of what it is. It's kind of like a title or a label. And,
the labels.
You know, and to be honest, when anxiety came out as their diagnosis, I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me, because back in my day, when we were upset or stressed out, it was just, I'm nervous or I'm stressed.
Right.
Process it, get over it, and move on. Right?
I had to learn most recently the difference between being nervous and excitement, because they feel the same. It's like almost the same body sensation. So it's like, okay, am I nervous, or is this anxiety, or am I excited? So I had to start paying attention to my sensations. And then, like you said, what am I up to right now? And see where that was coming from. Jennifer, they made some comments about the mental health aspect of it. You want to share anything that you heard, or you want to?
I do think you have to pay attention, because you can get all caught up in it, and then you don't take care of yourself. Like you just keep going in that state, that high state. And and if you're used to, I think the part of the military teaches you to ignore some of that, and you have to undo that a little bit.
And that could be a lifelong journey undoing that.
Yeah.
Yep. I literally had a patient when I was on the mental health floor in San Diego on Balboa. I had a patient who literally, when I say shot himself in the foot, I literally mean he shot himself in the foot trying to get out of boot camp.
Trying to get out,
yeah. He did not realize how intense boot camp was going to be, and he was on the Marine side. Mm-hmm. And they literally made him heal his foot, and they sent him right back out. Mm-hmm. And 3 months later, guess what?
He's back in.
He was back on the floor. This time it was because he was suicidal.
Oh, wow.
So he never even processed any of what he was feeling during that time that he was in boot camp. And they were just like, suck it up. And us on the floor were like, wait, that don't make sense. Don't suck it up. Like, we can't just have him suck it up. We got to take care of this.
Yeah.
But see, I think that's the point, right, Michelle? Like, you have all of these emotions and experiences. You're trying to process through them, and then you have different messages coming at you saying, well, suck it up, or don't do this and don't do that. And the truth is, as human beings, and I say this all the time, as human beings, we weren't made for the type of stresses that we're placed under consistently. We were made to have stressors and come back down to our
get back down to your baseline.
But if you
what is that
up there and constantly up there, do you understand how that can maybe relate to how you are avoiding a part of you that really needs just to be able to actually see yourself as human being and process what you're experiencing? That is what allows you to actually be able to move on.
But avoidance becomes a normal part of everyone's everyday life. And this is why people don't know how to manage their stressors. They don't know how to manage their relationships. They don't know how to manage their work environments, because they avoid situations because I don't want to get stressed out over this, or I don't want to cause anybody else angst. No, let's deal with it. Let's deal with it head on. I'm a big girl. You're a big boy. You're a big girl. Let's deal with it and face it, and then move through it. But people don't know how to do that.
But see, I know, and Jennifer, you can probably speak to that as well. In the service, you don't get that kind of time.
You don't.
You don't get that kind of time.
You don't.
Like the training that you start off with, this is going to not just save your life, but save the next man and maybe your whole squad or company's life. So you don't get a chance. And that's why I asked her, at some point in that basic training, that brain clicks over from that civilian personnel to a military personnel. And then once that clicks, depending on how long you stay in the service, you've got to figure out how to turn that off.
Yeah.
And a lot of veterans don't have those skills to be able to turn it back off. Yeah. And that was one of the things that that's why I developed Image in the Mirror, because I wanted people to be able to look at that mirror and that image in that mirror, not only to see who's in that mirror, but to love the reflection looking back at them. And so I developed that way back when I was working with the Navy, at military. And what I saw when I would work with my patients is they couldn't look at the mirror and give positive affirmations. They couldn't do it. It took them weeks, sometimes months, to be able to give themselves 5 positive affirmations without crying.
I would agree.
Yeah. And see, it's something that I had to work with my patients with, because I saw what they needed, but nobody else was willing to give them that. And so I had to take that time and develop that program so that way they could, I'm okay. I might be flawed, but I'm okay.
I just about a year or so ago looked in the mirror and was like, I'm looking for the 19-year-old Army body, and that dude was gone. I got grandpa.
Where did he go
now? And I'm like, where's the Army? Where's the 19-year-old? But I had to do that work to say, hey, and also I had to go talk to people that they said go, find some people to talk to. So I talked to my mom, like, Mom, this is how I see myself. She's like, where you get that from? Like, she was like, all the ways that I saw myself. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, That is not
okay.
cool.
So
Can I
so
see?
think about
Yeah, go
this,
ahead.
though, Farron. Think about this. Every time I come onto the station and we take that picture, I go, oh, look at that, I'm all fat, blah blah blah, right? Because I still see the little 18, 17-year-old skinny itty bitty girl. And now I'm like, wait, where all this come from? And people are like, you're not fat. And I'm like, who says? Who said that? I see.
Yeah.
Right.
And can I say just that is why I think it's important to give people permission to get help. And sometimes it's not family members that are going to give you the help you need. Sometimes it's going to be, somebody, maybe a professional, maybe somebody who actually has gone through it before and has overcome that thing, right?
Yes.
So I think it's always a good first step to ask someone else to walk that walk with you. Because a lot of us try to walk, we were talking about this earlier, try to walk through the walk by ourselves. We try to do this whole thing of, I got it, I can do it, and if it was that simple, then we would all be okay.
Then y'all wouldn't need me.
Yeah.
Well, and we tend, if we talk to ourselves too much, we're not going to get farther, like we learn by reflecting with each other. Yeah.
It's like giving yourself permission to be human. This is what I constantly remind people, because even in some of the work that I do with people around like experiencing your highest self is just that. It's like, can you be human? Can you allow yourself to have that space?
It's difficult to be human when I think Michelle said it. When you're looking at there's something wrong over here with me, when you're dealing with, like Jennifer mentioned, I'm a burden. When you're dealing with these self-talks that doesn't happen today, you're talking about childhood stuff that you've been through, and you're still dealing with that as an adult, and you've never peeled that off and addressed it. And so now you're living with all that stuff. I don't belong. I'm on my own. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong. Like any one of those is too many. Even if you're living from one of those.
But we don't have the skills as a society as a whole to be able to manage those emotions from inside. I've been working mental health for 30 plus years, right? And I still find myself sometimes sitting in a dark corner like, what the heck is going on in my life right now? And I know all the things to do. I know it all. Correct. But again, we are our own worst critics. And if we don't reach out to somebody who has a little bit different of a different insight and perspective, we're going to stay in those dark corners.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was thinking too that, you lose, like when you get out of the service, you lose your community immediately. And that's one of the things I miss the most about it. And we
camaraderie. We miss that camaraderie.
Yeah. Every Friday we would have, when I was stationed in San Key, we'd have we'd play volleyball for like 3 hours and have a cookout at lunchtime after our inspection. And it was just like everybody's letting loose, and like after work we would play basketball and outside, and it was all these things that we just did together. That's hard to do by yourself. You can shoot hoops by yourself, but when you're like messing around with your crewmates and like trash talking and things like that, it dissipates that stuff. And even though it's not direct, it helps you see yourself as part of that group. And I think
it gives you an outlet.
Gives you
definitely the outlet.
And I think that we don't have a lot of opportunities, like we don't do those pickup things, or then you got to drive to it, or that was always right there, that humor and messing around.
It was a bond. That's a bond. Most, I would say 99% of the veterans would, if you ask them what they miss the most, is that camaraderie. Is like the number one, because when you're away from that, and like I said, you get home and now you're sitting by yourself, it's like your value of who you are as a person now is, I'm not that. You're talking about identity crisis. Like I said, you got to add all of that up, plus the anxiety of what's next. If you got to look for a job and you didn't get in, so that humanness is ridiculous. So I'm gonna play this PSA. We're gonna come back, wrap up the show, and then see what my crew has to say. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, and MBR radio.us. Shout us out, what's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
You're listening to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM in the Inland Empire. Also streaming from the KCAARadio.com website, MBR Radio, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, Google Play, Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, Podcast, Stitcher, Amazon Radio, just to list a few. Oh yeah, and the streaming videos are located at Tiki Live or Rumble under the Farron Dozier Show. Catch us live or catch us on the archives at the Farron Dozier Show. Shout us out, what's the count? Visit farrond.com for more information.
I just wanna breathe this name, my God. Lift this name up high, dedicate this vibe, give them all we got. We will testify with our hands out, keep them up in the sky.
I just wanna praise. I just wanna praise. I just wanna praise. I just wanna praise. I made it up out of the city, avoided the hate and the gritty. Me and my little brother, my lovely mother tried to make it easy, but we was some knuckles though. We used to let them knuckles throw. We used to let them chuckles go when we thought about the places we would go. Yeah, lights off. Yeah, no, really. Lights off. Yeah, no money. Lights off. Under the candlelight.
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show. Yes, you can catch me on, it used to be Dash Radio, now it's Lit Live, Saturdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 5 p.m. That's the Revolution Radio Show. Actually, if you go to the archives at KCA Radio, we used to be over here 5 days a week. Those shows are still in like the top 20 of the shows over here at KCA Radio. So the Revolution Radio Show, it airs Saturdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 5 p.m. It is a Christian hip-hop talk show. Shouts out to J Love and Lillian. Hey, we talked about doing all these little different things. I had to really find myself because I'm to keep my mind occupied. 5 shows, sickle cell trait talks, but today I can tell you I finally found this space of where I got to reevaluate my whole life now. Like literally today, I got to reevaluate everything because I finally experienced what it is the Bible says to be content. Like we're talking about mental health. I use the kingdom principles. I use Maslow's hierarchy chart. I use CBT, CBT, mental health. I use landmark education. I use grievance classes. All that combined, after 14 years of trying to get my brain settled, I'm finally at this space spiritually of like, there's nothing wrong. Like, there's really nothing wrong in the world. And now, because I've taken on so much stuff that's wrong, and then I'm wrong, it's like, well, if I'm not wrong and nothing's wrong, so then, hey, what am I going to do now? So here we are, Sunday nights, right here on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. I'm reevaluating everything, but if you want information, farrond.com. You want sickle cell trait information, wdconsct.org. I guessed Jennifer, thank you so much so far for hanging out. I know it's late over there. I really appreciate you for hanging in there. Alan.
Yes.
Appreciate you, man, for hanging out. I know it's late over there for you too. And my teammate over here, Michelle, I appreciate you for being locale over here in the Empire. I guess one thing, I got 2 minutes. So one thing I really want to pose, and hopefully Michelle and Alan, you'll come back to help me discuss this. But that burden, Jennifer brought that up about going through life as a burden. I think that's something that we do deal with silently, and we suffer with that silently, and we don't really say that out loud to other people. In 10 seconds, 15 seconds, Michelle, what do you want to say about that?
I'm going to apply it back to me and sickle cell, right?
Right.
So in my world, I always feel like I don't know how to integrate that part of me into relationships. I don't want to be a burden to the person that I'm dating. So I try to keep that to myself. But then I realize that that's not fair. So then I have to express. So there's that tug of war kind of, but the burden is always there because you never want to feel as if somebody's obligated to be there to help you when sometimes they do it willingly and you just never know.
Something you said, that obligation. Alan, real quick, what you got?
I just think that is a reality that people struggle with, that two-sided coin of like, I want to make sure that I'm not becoming a burden to others. And at the same time, I don't want to live my life having to worry about that burden and that reality. And I think that, again, the best thing I could say is get help, find somebody. I share my Alan Emanuel mental therapy is what I do. And if you're in Atlanta, you can get help. I'm sure Michelle can share her information, but just get help. It doesn't matter where you get the help. The thing is, don't do it alone. Yeah. Don't feel like you have to sit in that space by yourself.
Lastly, Jennifer, anything you want to say before I let you go?
I would just say, that we are enough and we should know that about ourselves, and we deserve love. And, that's something to remember. It's that as you talk about that tension,
we gotta be enough. Mm-hmm. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Shout us out with account next Sunday. Check the social media at Farron Dozier Show, at Farron Dozier on all platforms, MBRadio.us for more of those veteran talk shows. Peace.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.